seconds and counting. Team.
Hey, what's good, yo? Welcome back to another video. It's Anish, joined with Drew, and we are here to give you guys Texans training camp updates. It's been 5 days of training camp so far, and we have a lot of exciting news to share with y'all. And before we start, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more training camp updates and more Texans updates in general. And without further ado, let's get started with Davis Mills, the quarterback number one of this team, and he's been getting a lot of high praise in training camp. Lovey votes him as the team captain, and he likes how he has taken a lot of greater responsibility as being QB1. I think you guys might have noticed it with him hosting off-season workouts with his teammates, putting in the extra work, and to many people watching training camp, he looks to be very sharp, decisive, there's anticipation, and so right now, it looks like Mills is looking like to be the future of the franchise. It might be very, very early to say that, and it is, of course. But if Mills keeps this up, like stringing along really good performances right now from what we've seen in training camp, and training camp is training camp. A lot of people do tend to look good and then end up performing bad for whatever reason. But Mills hasn't thrown an interception in 4 days of training camp, and then the last day he did. But that kind of consistency, if he can keep that up, that'll be very, very helpful in the future.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Davis Mills has been very, very sharp. I believe one day he went 19 for 23, and he had 6 touchdowns and no interceptions, and that was, I think it was day 4. That was his best day of training camp. But one thing we do need to see is just, and this is more of a, in general thing, is once the season starts, will he get back to that, leading the league in deep passing? His deep throw accuracy was one of the best ratings in the NFL. Obviously, he didn't play every single game, but still, he had one of the best, deep pass ratings. But we have heard that he has struggled a little bit on some, he had some overthrows on the passes deep, but he has been very, very efficient. And being very, very efficient is going to come in handy. Obviously, we're running a new system. The Pep Hamilton system is going to be taking a lot of deep shots, but also going to taking a lot of checkdowns and short passes just to be productive, so they can keep, a little bit of a balanced offense. Obviously, they are going to be wanting to run the ball, but of course, you got to open the run game up by passing the ball deep, passing the ball short, having extensions of the run game, which I think Mills will really, really like, and it's going to be really good for him. But in terms of being the face of the franchise, that is something we are going to have to be looking for this season, as this is going to be a crucial season for Davis Mills. The Texans having 2 first-round picks for the next 2 years. One of those picks could definitely be used on a quarterback in the future. But Davis Mills, for now, he has control of this team. He's going to be the leader. He's going to be the captain. He's going to be efficient. He does not make very many mistakes, and he hasn't made very many mistakes through training camp so far, so I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah, he's been giving the reins to the team, and I think this season, we can be really relaxed as Texans fans, because if Mills pans out well, then we can use those first-round picks to help build the supporting cast around him, help the defense. But if he doesn't, then we end up with a higher pick and just use that on one of the top quarterbacks in the draft. So honestly, it seems like a win-win for us. Not too much like anxiety, I guess, from Texans fans, because you have pretty good outcomes nonetheless. So, and then in terms of Mills' development, other things he's been good at, just being very efficient in the red zone. He's pretty rated highly in that area as well, and has done a pretty good job at the 2-minute drill. And he seems to be effective in the pocket, knowing when to scramble, knowing when pressure's coming. So Mills has looked to improve on many, many aspects in this game. And so maybe we will see him break out and get more and more national recognition. And now let's just quickly touch on the rookies. They haven't been getting a lot of work in the training camp. They're being slowly ramped up. I think Stingley, we've seen the most about him. He's being matched against Cooks and try to put up a fair fight, but obviously Cooks is Cooks, and he's been doing that to everyone basically. But there was this play against Johnny Johnson where he basically ran the route for him, and he mirrored him so well that he intercepted Mills on that play. And Christian Harris, I think he's a sleeper of mine. He's been flying around super fast, has good recognition, just working through the blockers. And he's actually been working with the first team defense. And in general, I think our linebacking group is pretty deep this year. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the reps haven't exactly, been too much, but they have all been getting reps for the first team. They have all flashed. Like you talked about Stingley, I saw John Harris say he's the epitome of what you want in a cornerback. We know Stingley's, technique is just absolutely superb. He's going to be a great athlete. I saw him taking some punt return reps. I'm sure some fans are a little scared about that because he does have a little bit of injury history. But it's really exciting to see the Texans may even want to use him in a special teams game. We saw Kenyon Green get some action in there. He's been really, really good in the run game so far, but he is coming back from an injury that he had at Texas A&M. Christian Harris, the Texans believe they have found a linebacker with elite speed. He has just been going absolutely crazy, and he is really, really impressed. Same with Jalen Pitre. Texans believe they found someone who's already NFL ready, and he's already getting a ton of reps. Of course, at safety and the slot with the first team, as the Texans do not have too many options at safety. Looks like it's going to be a combo of Jonathan Owens at free safety with people like Terence Brooks, Pitre, and MJ Stewart kind of playing that strong safety role. But obviously, they like to put Pitre at the close to the line of scrimmage. We'll see what they do there. And Damon Pierce is also really, really impressed, and he's earned the respect of Coach Lovie Smith as well, who really likes his tough running style so far.
Yeah, Kenyon Green, like you said, getting up to speed. There was a play where he opened a huge hole for Marlon Mack. That was why we drafted him, to really help the run game, and that's what one of the big things that we're focusing on this season. And speaking of the run game, we drafted Damon Pierce, who seems very shifty. Seems that he always finishes the play the right way, just fighting for extra yards. So I'm excited to see. Do you think that Damon Pierce ends up being the lead back soon, or do you think it's more so going to be like a committee approach?
I'm gonna have to say committee approach, but I would, if I had to place my money on the running back who got the most carries on the Texans, I'd definitely say Damian Pierce. I think around like week 7 or 8, you'll start to see him maybe get the starting job. Not necessarily like the starting job is just going to get 20 carries a game, but he may get the most of like 10 to 12, 13, something like that. He's going to be really, really good for the Texans. I think the Texans are really going to like him. He's going to earn that job, or at least the lead committee job soon.
Yeah, and the committee of Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead, they're very, very good in their own right. I've seen that Marlon Mack is kind of returning back to form, and Rex Burkhead, he's a very solid piece on this team. As y'all know, he had that breakout game against the Chargers. So I mean, who knows what this run game is capable of? And Petrie, like you said, he looks like a ball hawk with sacks, and he almost had an interception. So he's like all around the ball. He has pretty good anticipation. That's kind of the report for the rookies so far. Hopefully, we'll get more information soon. And let's move on to the offense. And one name that has been standing out this training camp is none other than Nico Collins, the year 2 wide receiver from Michigan. And he's been getting high praise from Mills, from Lovie Smith, from Pep Hamilton, practically from anyone you'd ask. He's making nice aggressive catches, really showing a lot more confidence catching the ball naturally. And I think all in all, Nico is a perfect complement for Cooks, and I'm excited to see him play this season.
Yeah, Nico Collins is a perfect complement for Brandon Cooks. Obviously, Brandon Cooks is that deep threat, great route runner, great speed guy. But Nico Collins is going to catch every single ball that comes up to him. He's a jump ball target. He's 6'4", great hands, has really been working on his route running. Has a great connection with Davis Mills, so I think it's really, really good to see. They're both so young. That's going to be huge for the future of the Texans right there. I think Nico Collins is going to be one of those core guys for at least the next 10 years. And also like that he has been staying after practice, just get extra work in. He's very hungry for the season. Don't be surprised if he gets like 800, 900 yards and like 8 touchdowns. I think that's something to look out for. If you're a big fantasy football guy, consider picking up Nico Collins.
Yeah, and he's also been working on diversifying his route tree, short, intermediate, deep. So I'm excited for Nico for sure. And speaking of his partner in crime, Cooks, and he's been cooking everyone, honestly. He had 10 touchdowns in one day. He's been guarded heavily by Steven Nelson, sometimes by Stingley, but they're almost like no match for Cooks at some time. So I think Cooks has been winning those matchups. And Cooks has been Cooks, and a lot of people are saying it might be his best year yet. I know they say that about a lot of players, like, oh, they're in the best shape of their life, it's their best year yet. But Cooks hasn't shown much decline, it seems, and that's pretty good to hear. And he says he's really committed to the Texans, and he said the reason why he signed that extension was because he believes in Nick Caserio's vision for the team. So it's good to see that buy-in from the older guys, the veteran guys, and that trickles down all the way to the younger ones too. And speaking of the offense, more about the offense, Lovie Smith says our O-line is the strongest position group on the team. And to me, that sounds a little surprising considering that our O-line wasn't very good. But then again, we had our fair share of injuries and so many lineups. So it makes sense. And we drafted Kenyon Green, who seems to be very, very promising. Tyus Howard is going to stay at right tackle and he feels comfortable. And as y'all know, Laramie Tunsil, he's going to be that foundation. So if our O-line does improve, like everyone has said it has, then we can see a very, very much improved Texans offense as well. And moving on to the tight end group, Pharaoh Brown was actually named tight end number one. I know there's a lot of backlash, including from me when Pharaoh Brown was re-signed, but he looks to be very good so far in training camp. Connected very well with Davis Mills, catching a lot of touchdowns in the red zone. He looks good, but he has had some concentration drop issues, but that's nothing that can be fixed. And Brevin Jordan has also been a very bright spot, and he serves to be like a good complementary piece. Tight end number two, doing well in the red zone as well. And Chester Rogers, who we signed a few days ago, he looks to be very quick and sharp, but he looked like he did strain his leg, though he was getting worked on by the trainers. And honorable mentions also include Chris Moore, who's, I think he had a day where he snagged 21 out of 22 balls, so he looks to be very reliable. And Jalen Camp, I've been hearing his name too, so looks like our offense is looking very promising in this upcoming season.
Yeah, so let's get straight into the defense. And the first guy we're going to talk about is someone who's been going absolutely crazy this camp. We're going to start off with Blake Cashman, the linebacker who we got from the Jets for just a 6th-round pick. He had some injury problems, but he's an absolute stud, athletic freak. He's playing the will position for us most of the time, which is really just going to be Kamu's backup position. So, but Blake Cashman can certainly earn him a starting spot. He had 2 interceptions at training camp yesterday. He had couple pass deflections earlier. He's been flying around the field, looking like he is in the best shape of his life. If he stays healthy, that's going to be huge for him. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, but Steven Nelson has been having a great fight against Brandon Cooks, reportedly in the one-on-ones. He's been very, very physical. He's having sticky coverage. He's just so technically refined, a great veteran. I think Steven Nelson, at this point, is going to be the outside corner alongside Derek Stingley. And you got Jonathan Greenard, who is looking like he is all healthy after his offseason foot surgery, which is very good to hear. As Greenard, if he stays healthy, you can be looking at 15 sack season from him. And we got to talk about the veterans that we signed. They signed Mario Addison and Jerry Hughes, who are both defensive linemen from the Bills. And of course, Jacques Cizier was the assistant defensive line coach in Buffalo, who is now a defensive line coach. Those are 2 good veterans that are going to be really good for the young guys such as Blacklock and Greenard, who they can both kind of coach up. And more about the secondary. We got Terence Brooks, someone who I have just always loved. He is looking like he's playing with a lot of energy again. Strong safety is looking good. He's a great veteran, great special teams core player. Keep an eye out for Rasheem Green, another defensive lineman, who of course can be mentored by Mario Addison and Jerry Hughes. He has been looking like a freak. He's been making great stops on the defensive line. He is kind of a bigger 5 technique. I think he's like 275, 280 pounds. But he's been showing great strength, great athleticism, great burst. Another guy I really, really love is Ogbo, the edge we signed from the Rams. He's a Houston native. His burst off the defensive line, the edge, in the one-on-ones has just been absolutely insane. I think at his best, he is 100% a 10-sack guy if you can get him out there. But the Texans are going to be kind of having a rotational defensive line where they're going to have one group of 4 defensive linemen and then another group and then other guys they might want to work in there. Just kind of keep them fresh, and I think that's going to be really good because I feel like we have such a deep defensive line. I really think it's going to work. And then we'll finish off with Garrett Wallow, who looks like he has really, really improved. I think Lovie Smith said he was one of the players that he was most impressed by in the offseason. He said Garrett Wallow did not miss a single day in the offseason. He's been working so hard. His coverage has been really improved. He's flying around the field again, making great stops, looking like he's going to be another really solid player for the Texans, who have a relatively deep linebacking core. You got Christian Kirksey, Kamo Hill, Kevin Pierre-Louis, Garrett Wallow, Christian Harris, and others among that. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they're going to sort that out with all these linebackers. So, yeah, the defense has been looking promising. There's been good battles in training camp. Defense has won some days. Other days you got Mills shredding the defense up just bit by bit. But there's been great competition so far. And I think there's going to be some new additions to the defense this season that we're all going to really like.
Yeah, and then I think overall our team, although there might not be like a superstar player on the team, I think overall we have like pretty solid players all around, like really good depth. So honestly, this team, I don't think it will be as bad as most people make it out to be, like saying 2 wins or 3 wins. Definitely think like this team can win more than 4 wins, of course. Hopefully they'll have improved compared to last season. But that's pretty much it for the video. Let us know your thoughts on these training camp updates. Who are you excited to see this upcoming season? And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Thank you all for watching. Peace.